Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Type 35 build. In case you couldn't tell, there have been some developments. Most obviously, the firewall. It's a little bare looking right now, but I ended up making it in two sections. I'm thinking about slicing the upper to make it a three-piece firewall. I don't know. I'm going to live with it for a bit. For now, though, you can see, like an original Type 35, the firewall is even with the scuttle and the footwell extends into the engine compartment. The upper firewall section was bent by hand. Well, I had a really big hammer, but I want the car to have a hand-built look, so I'm hammering all the flanges and bends. I buffed the raw aluminum down. In person it looks nice, but the camera is really picking up on the buff marks, so have to make another pass there. Something you can see that's infinitely cooler than buff marks is where the firewall meets the bulkhead brackets. When you look straight on, the firewall bolts to the flange and everything's normal. But when you look at it from the side, because I made the bulkhead brackets with a lip around their outer perimeter, it obscures the joint between the bracket and the firewall and makes the panel transition look so much nicer. Not quite as nice is the upper firewall flange, which is really straight, but the squiggles from buffing the aluminum makes the flange look wavy when it's not. I really gotta rebuff that thing. Below it though, the lower firewall extends down and supports the leading edge of the belly pan. It attaches to the bulkhead bracket up top and to the toe board bracket at the bottom, and you can see how it's relieved so it can be removed without disassembling the brake and clutch systems. The whole firewall then attaches to the body using stainless steel Allen bolts because, honestly, they're the coolest looking bolt for the job. They look like little rivets. Oh, and speaking of cool looking, the rear bulkhead, it got all done up. I buffed it down with the same finish as the firewall, which they came out looking pretty nice. Plus I installed all the perimeter fasteners, which, again, Allen bolts for the win. It just, every time I do something to it, from its initial fitting to trimming the pass-through in the middle so you can see the rear suspension and everything, it just keeps getting cooler looking every time I mess with it. It's been one of my favorite parts on the car for a while now, and I really want to say it's my favorite part on the whole car, except I also installed the dash panel into the car. This is now, by far, my favorite part on the whole car. I mean, right? I was on the fence about engine turning it. I almost buffed it to match the firewall, but I got an engine turn pattern that I was really happy with. The whole dash was finished. There's 2,400 individual hand-jeweled turns. No mill, no drill press, all by hand. It's not perfect. I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to look nice, but like it was done by hand, so I turned it by hand. I also hammered the flange around its perimeter, and the legs taper towards the bottom just as an original Type 35. Past the dash is the toe board bracket that joins the lower firewall and belly pan together. If you look into the footwell, you can see where the firewall halves bolt together and how they both attach to the bulkhead brackets. Plus, just peeking out from behind the legs of the dash are the feet of the aluminum dash support bar, which holds the dashboard in place and eventually will support the steering column as well. Taking a closer look at the toe board bracket, well, maybe I might get a better view if I move to the passenger side. You can see up close how the bolts come up just flush with the ends of the nuts, Plus how clean the toe board bracket looks being finished the same as the floor and the firewall, but with the nuts and bolts just flush like they are, it's kind of purposeful but clean looking. Having the Allen bolts face head up would have looked even better, but that would have put the nuts under the car, which I wasn't keen on, so something that was kinda silly, an oddity of the car, but no different than an original Type 35, is the drive shaft. Usually there's a trans tunnel and you never get to see it. But with the seats out, there it is. It just strikes me as comical to have it above the floor pan. It's like a fish out of water or something. I don't know. Makes me chuckle. What else do we have that we can look at? I think that kind of brings us up to speed. I still like the dash. I think it's going to come out looking stellar once the steering wheel and gauges and everything are all installed. And the engine turning it makes me smile. You know, something I haven't touched on though is the transmission. It kind of looks like it's just floating in midair. Sitting in the car next to it, you'd think it'd be weird, but it's kind of cool, which would be the defining characteristic of the car. It's all kind of cool. Though, can you really blame me for being a little biased?